So, one thing that I noticed as I listened to that story is talent management and talent, being able to identify talent. How key is that when you start getting into these leadership roles and you start building teams? How key is it to learn how to identify that person or those people who are going to help push your team to that next level?
Yeah, mission number one. So, one of the things I talk about in my upcoming book, but I've been doing this for years. I think leaders have focused so much on the tactics, the nuts and the bolts, the practical, tactical. How do I get things done? They work on these strategic plans, and there is definitely something to be said about creating a great strategy and ultimately just getting about it, attacking it. You've got to execute. But now I'm starting to shift more organizations, or at least I'm trying to be a catalyst to do that, to move from strategy based to more culture centric. And for me, that definition of culture, which we can talk about as well, it is always going to be about the people. So your question is really, where do you go find these rock stars? Like, they're out there. We know that. And I used to have a consulting company where I would have people tell me all the time, oh, there's no good talent out there anymore. Yeah, there is. Somebody else has got them, and you're going to have to work harder. You're going to have to mine for them. You're going to have to do some things to get them to fall madly in love with you, to come work for you. It's not easy anymore. You can't just sit at the front door and wait for somebody to put in an application or a resume or a CV in Europe, right? You actually have to go and hunt them down. So for me, my whole world, my parallel universe is below the surface. It's all about the humans. It's not about the things that I do for the customer, the guests, the end user. Like, I know that's an awesome end result. Mm-hmm. Where does it all start? It's human behaviors. So when I use the word rock stars, I am hunting all day long. Where are these awesome people? Where do they live? Where do they work? Where do they hang out? How can I get them to come work for me? So, if you think about the employee life cycle, and here's sort of the way I'll end the answer. I think about everything that a team member will go through. So I go, how am I going to recruit, interview, hire, train, develop, reward, communicate, get them to stay with me, retain them, even the way that we separate, even if they leave me, I want them to think back on the brand and go, that was a pretty awesome use of my time. I love that company. There are things that you can put into place in every areas of those employee life cycles. So your question's really on the front end. It is mission number one. As good of a training guy as I thought I was, if I was really serious about making a huge difference in the company and I had a time machine, I'd go back to be a recruiter. Because I feel like all the best training in the world isn't going to help a bad hire. If you could have gotten that right on the front end, man, it solves so many problems for the management and the leadership, honestly. So your question is very valid. I think it's mission number one. And for those people that say, I don't have time to do it, it just depends on how much turnover you're willing to let happen. How many people do you want coming and going? How many wrong hires are you going to allow? You want to fix the bleeding? You got to start on the front end.
Now, people in this world have a lot of fear. Some people are afraid of clowns. Some people are afraid of frogs, and that's a real thing, that people are afraid of frogs out there. But one thing that most people are afraid of is public speaking. Now, you're a speaker. You have spoken all over the country, man. And I can't even count how many speaking engagements that you've had. So it's pretty evident you have mastered the art of public speaking. So how would you help, or what advice would you give to someone who struggles with public speaking and trying to get outside of that box?
Yeah, you're right. More than insects or height or bugs or snakes or whatever it is the number one fear of all people. So if people are scared to death of speaking, first, right out of the gate, you got to know you're in the same boat as everybody else. So you start with that and go, it is a real thing and it's the number one thing. But there are things that you can do to get over it. And so even you and I have talked about this before. Mm-hmm. The way that I am now did not just happen by accident. It started with my love of wanting to perform. I did a bunch of community theater. When you're a music major, you have to sing in front of people. When you're a teacher, you have to speak in front of people. When you're running training and development, you're leading groups, right? So my skills just got better and better and better. But at some point, when you go, I think I want to make a run at this and be a public speaker, a keynote speaker, you almost have to make sure that you're doing what I did and truncating it down, because someone will come to me and they've never done it before. And they go, how do I do what you do? I want to do what you do for a living.
Facts.
Okay. That's a big start. It's a long runway, but you can do it. So I would say maybe the first thing I would recommend is you got to take a course. There's a lot of companies out there that will provide, it might be a 1 day, it might be a multi-day. Take a course that actually gives you some information. But here's the kicker on these. I'm begging everybody. You can't just go for the information and the knowledge. If somebody's going to be up there yakking and they got a flip chart, they got a PowerPoint, and that's it, it's not enough. You need to take some course that has a lot of exercises, a lot of participatory things in nature. You might actually do a little bit of a mini speech in front of other people. You know, and that's fearful. You got to get past that fear factor at some point. There's no better way to grow your skill set than actually doing. So I would say, number one, take a course. The other one is, no matter how good you think you are or bad you are, you got to practice. I could talk about it all day, but until you start figuring out, how can I do this in front of people? How do I ever get over the fear if I don't get out there and try it? So it's looking for every opportunity. I'm not even talking about making money yet. I say volunteer for everything. Church, Rotary Club, Boys and Girls Club, your friend, somebody is asking you for a favor. The answer is yes. You start looking for every opportunity so that you can get your sea legs, you get more comfortable. So once you get a topic, once you've got some ideas that you think you can put into place, I don't care if it's storytelling and you just want to talk for 30 minutes, or you want to get fancy and use a PowerPoint or a keynote or flip chart, doesn't matter to me. You've got to get in front of human beings and practice. And at some point, you're going to start figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and you will get better. It takes time. You can't just do it overnight. I am not the way that I am because it just magically appeared. It's a lot of hard work. It is, but I love it. And now I'm going to do this, hopefully, the rest of my life.
That's what I'm talking about. You know, that is something that we have to look at. You can't just say, I'm going to wake up and be like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan took a lot of jump shots. I want to wake up and be like Hudrico. You can by subscribing. That's the first step. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, here's the plug. But how about you give us a thought that rocks for today? Let's see how this works. How about a thought that rocks for Hudricolive?
Well, you know, I will give you I'll give you my biggest one. I've got a couple thoughts out there, but probably the one that resonates with me the most. And I bet you this won't surprise anybody now that we've been talking about this stuff for about 30 minutes. Here's my quote. I think a single person with a great idea can start a cultural revolution.